We pledged ourselves to bring home ownership once again within the reach of ordinary Australian families, to end that sense of despair.
One of the biggest concerns people have is about whether their kids will be able to ever afford a house.
We open the bidding, ladies and gentlemen, at $1,100,000. I thank you.
Knowing what I know, buying a property would be the last thing I'd do. The last thing I'd do. The biggest problem you've got in this country as far as a mortgage crisis is that the banks have a 25-year term, and a lot of people have been interest only. In the United States, for example, you can go and take out at the same, the same sort of area that you would buy in Melbourne in the United States, and you can take a 35 to, I've seen 40-year loans in the United States. I know people who've got 40-year loans over there, fixed rate. So here, the banks don't offer on fixed rate on residential any more than 5 years, and commercial rates 10. So in the United States now, if we picked a postcode in Melbourne, Sydney, Queensland, and you wanted to borrow $1 million, you'll get 5-year fixed rate, and that's priced. And that 5-year fixed rate's looking at that now gives you some indication where credit pressure is, where it sits today. But you can get a 40-year loan, 35-year loan now for sub 7% in the United States fixed. So it's one of the only countries in the world that you can do that. I think that's where it's becoming difficult. You've got a shorter term. You've got 10 to 15 years shorter than other nations, and what you're borrowing money, that same home 20 years ago was 300. 3 times the value, and interest rates have come up on a P&I. And so when I first started borrowing money when I was very young, interest only was the only way that I'd invest. I think the younger generation's got to the stage where it's become that difficult for them. And I'm starting to see, from what I read and feel through the market, that I think a lot of people are some are giving up, but some are saying, why, this checkout from the neck up, why am I beating myself up and frothing at the mouth to try and get into the housing market? Why don't I rent and invest? And if I'm going to see, so 5 years ago, this was a pretty hot topic. Rent and invest. Rent where you want to live, Melbourne, Sydney, and invest out that makes sense. Whatever investment yield, so I get a negative or neutral cash flow, and not negative gearing, neutral gearing, and build a portfolio that way. Now, if that negative gearing, that rent invest theory is adopted, I'm starting to see the trends, and we follow the flow of capital. We're starting to see trends now. People are saying, well, I will rent and invest, but I'll rent. I have to have a roof over my head, but I may not invest in the real estate. Real estate may be one asset class. And I started to see trends of that, and that's why I say that will demand wane. I mean, if you adopt that mathematics on that 1.2 million, what I'm trying to say here, 1.2 million shortfall, is that's the demand they say, and I think that's fairly accurate. That demand could reduce by a great deal because people might take the view that it might reduce by 25%. I don't know whether the demand, for people coming into the country for a family, I'm talking about the younger that have got a job and got income, joint income. I'm saying the younger generation now, knowing what I know about capital and knowing what I know about instruments, if I was starting again today and going back from 57 to when I was 25, the last thing drop it in this environment with an amount of capital, knowing what I know, buying a property would be the last thing I'd do. The last thing I'd do. because you'd want to be in the fast lane. You're in concrete boots and tied there for 20, 30 years into one postcode, one address, one location, no income come. You know, it's a liability. It's an asset of the bank, and so will we see more? So getting back to Bitcoin, we spoke about earlier, are people looking at their lives differently? And now I'm seeing a lot of social forums now online that these theories now are starting to sort of run. You start to look back at what makes sense to these individuals. I mean, it seems to me that, you know, digital currency is certainly there, Bitcoin, Ethereum, the stock market, other investments that are going to put money in their pocket and grow it. The whole idea of this buying this home was, I will put your money away, have the money taken off you each week or each fortnight, month as a discipline, forced savings, and you've got a house. That forced savings was the mantra that institutions sold with super. Have it taken out of your pay because you won't miss it. And same with the mortgage. Mortgage discipline, having that has been the reasons why this country is so wealthy, and because it's been a forced savings. Now I'm saying that investment instrument now, the capital growth is not going to be as great. I'm not saying don't buy property. I'm just saying there are alternatives now. It's a bit of a smorgasbord of now what you can go into, other than there is life after real estate.